Welcome to our Walsh College Leading Ladies series. I am so excited for this episode, and I am joined by my colleague and friend, Tenita Johnson, and we are going to talk everything from books, entrepreneurship, authors, and nonprofits that have mission first. So I am so excited to have you here, Tenita. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, this is our new. Be good. It is going to be good because this is our new podcast studio.
Yes, I'm excited. It's so creative and fun.
Yeah. It is. This is great. So first, I want to talk. We met about over a year ago, actually, through a Troy Chamber of Commerce event that they had for authors and publishers.
Yes.
And I was so amazed. Here I come with my one book or two books, and you had a whole table.
We were on a panel together.
We were on a panel, yes. And you had the whole table of books.
Yes.
And that's how I got to know you as the CEO and founder of So It Is Written.
Correct.
So tell us a little bit about your journey with So It Is Written, and then the books that you've wrote, and then where that is leading today.
Wow. So started in traditional journalism. Thought I would be working up the ladder at the Detroit Free Press or the St. Louis Post, and we see where newspaper is today. So those dreams were quickly crushed. And so when I came out of college, I didn't have a job. I actually worked at Disney for 6 months at Epcot, which was crazy. I thought that I would be working for ABC eventually, and that's not how things worked out. So I found myself in corporate communications for a lot of corporations. So your DTE Energy, Mercedes-Benz Financial Services, Volkswagen, Audi, those types of companies. So I was still using my degrees. I have a Bachelor of Journalism, but I was using it in a way that I did not expect. Fast forward, between 2007 to 2010, I was unemployed for 3 years, so I was a contractor. Okay. So, with contract work, it can be 3 days on, 6 weeks off. It can be 3 weeks on, 7 months off. It just varies. There's a need for a business, and when there's not a need, you're off again. And so I'll never forget, I was sitting in my living room at the time. We had a 900 square foot house, if you can believe it, 900 square feet. And it was actually 3 bedrooms, so they were tiny. But sitting in my living room, and it was like, okay, what do I have in my hands? And what can I use to generate income? And what problem can I solve? And so for me, my biggest pet peeve was seeing so many self-published authors look like self-published authors. So what I tell people is just because the book is self-published doesn't mean it doesn't need to look like it's coming from a traditional publisher.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I said, I'm just going to start an editing and proofreading company. I did not set out to start a publishing company. I just did editing and proofreading, and then I would send people on their way. They would ask me, do you do marketing? Do you do publish? I don't do any of that. I'm just the editor. And I did that from 2009 all the way to probably 2018, 2019. Yeah. So I've only been publishing probably 5 or 6 years. But I was trained by a publishing professional in Dayton, Ohio.
Oh.
I'm 24 books in now. And so
24 books in?
Books.
My goodness. I can't even believe that.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And so by the time she published my first book, but by the time I got to my third book in 2014, she was like, I'm not taking your money. Like, I'm going to show you how to do it yourself. And I appreciate that because she didn't have to do that. And so because she did that, now I'm publishing, she's still publishing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Tenita, I want to go back to something that you said because I love that story, how you're sitting there saying, okay, I'm a contractor, I'm between jobs.
Yeah.
What do I have in my hand? What is in front of me that I can do to make money?
That's the part that a lot of people don't think about. The other piece is, what problem can you solve that nobody else can solve like you solve it? Because there are a lot of people who solve problems, but there are people who solve problems and they're sloppy with it. It's not done in excellence.
It's your way that is the, and so that is so important for leading ladies, for entrepreneurs. To know, number one, you have all the tools that you need right in front of you.
It's in you.
It's in you.
It's already in you.
I love it. And I love So It Is Written. It was almost as if this became then what you did.
Absolutely.
But I think it's really important to highlight that successful people are asking, what problem can I solve in the world? And where do my talents and skills, in your case, journalism, writing, editing, align with that so I can make a massive contribution. And you actually created value. You built a business from this. So
Absolutely.
I love it.
And it's so funny. I started out charging $1 a page.
Oh, wow.
And I thought I was really doing it when I went up to like $3 a page.
Yes.
And now to have full publishing packages, ghostwriting packages, book coaching packages. I mean, it just morphed into, because people kept asking me for it. So when the community or the market is demanding for you to do something different, you got to shift.
Oh, 100%. I was just thinking about this the other day because we just started our Walsh Leadership Academy. We've been doing it now for a while, but we were thinking that's why we created it. We heard from so many business leaders, entrepreneurs, companies that leadership training, those soft skills, communication, leading teams was so important. And we thought at Walsh College, we teach business and technology. Why wouldn't we offer leadership training as well? So I love how you said we kept building the business based on what the market asked for.
Absolutely.
And that's another success tip. You know, it's so funny. I talk to a lot of folks and they say, oh, entrepreneurs are, they just think differently or they're made differently.
We're crazy.
I think,
we're
I hear that.
Crazy.
I hear that. But it's you see an opportunity and you say, you know what, I've got to create value. And I would tell you, it's who you become in the process.
Absolutely.
A resilient, innovative, you have grit. And I see that in you. And I love how you're constantly going, okay, now how do I bring more contribution to the world?
Absolutely. And so now I'm in a season of, I've been serving so many clients for so long. I really had to take a step back and say, who do I serve best? And what service can I offer that's also serving me? Because here's what we can do as entrepreneurs. I solve this great problem. This is what I do. My clients love it. They're happy, but we're miserable. That's not good either. You can be making all the money in the world. We know that money doesn't bring happiness or joy.
Right.
So, and a lot of people are like, show me, give me more money, you know?
Yes.
But it's one of those things where it's like you can be doing a lot of things and most of us are good at multiple things. But what are you great at? It's the thing that people call like your zone of genius. Like nobody's doing it like you're doing it. So now I created a coaching cohort that's called Brand Book Bestseller, where we walk you through writing your signature brand book in 60 days or less. Susie, let me tell you, I talk to so many business owners who are like, I've been writing my book for 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
I can help you get it written in 60 days.
Yep.
And then I give them the cost and they're like, that's not in my budget. I'm like, well, you're paying me for the 10 years that I'm saving you from, and we're getting it done in 60 days so you can start generating some income.
And I love that because, success loves speed, and successful people many times will pay for speed because even for myself, like when I published my book, I had a team of folks. I had an editor, a copy editor, I had a proof editor, I had
graphic designer.
I had someone that took the book and put it in the Amazon dimensions. And that was like 4 or 5 folks. And when I add all that up, by the way, I love the liveness of the podcast studio. There's a little fly that is flying around.
Like, oh
so
my
if you
God.
see me do this, I'm not trying to
We're not waving at you.
I know, but I was like, I think I got it.
What is happening?
That's what's so funny. But no, I think that's so important is that, if you want to get your book done, because a lot of people, they start things.
Absolutely.
And I can be a great starter. I know a lot of people can, but to get it across the finish line, you're saying, I've got a system and process. I know how to do it. And I know how to actually do it in a way that will get the book sold, get reviews on Amazon. In fact, one of the best things you told us at that panel, I loved it.
Which one? Which
one?
It
was so
Susie?
good. What was the one we did with the chamber? And you said, you don't want to write a 200+ page book because people will not finish it and then they won't write a review.
Absolutely.
And I thought that was so wise because most of my books are 150, 170 pages.
Yeah.
I joke I could write an email longer than the book. But yet I know that people don't want to read these long books. They want to be able to get in, especially business folks and entrepreneurs. We want to get in, we want to get the tools, get out, and then apply them.
Right. So a lot of times when I'm working with business owners like yourself, I say, what are 7 keys or 10 tips or 12 things that you can do to whatever it is that you do, you need to simplify it for the reader. The other thing I tell people is if you don't capture them in chapter 1,
it's
you
done.
risk them not finishing the book at all. Because I can't tell you how many books I have started and have not finished. And then the author will email me and say, what did you think? And I'm like, it was good.
I'm on chapter 1.
I'm on chapter 3, but I'm not finishing it.
Wow. That's also a pro tip. I wouldn't have thought about that. I would think that you have to make sure you have a good ending and you're thinking.
No, you have to keep them reading.
You have to keep them.
It should be a page turner, even if it's a self-published book, it's a nonfiction book. The power of storytelling still needs to be present. Most people only think about stories with fiction books.
No.
You need to use storytelling if it's a business book.
Oh, this is so powerful. In fact, in one of our classes, I'm actually teaching it in the DBA program, High Performance Leadership. One of the end options to do the final project is to publish a small leadership guidebook on Amazon.
Tell them call me.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're going to be a great resource because I can see a lot of folks going, oh, how do I get this done?
Yes.
But I love that because just because you're self-publishing doesn't mean it has to look self-published or like you just printed it on the printer, stapled it, PDF scanned it,
I'm like,
put it on.
don't go to Kinko.
Don't go to Kinko.
FedEx. Like, we're
do
not
that.
doing
Yeah.
the Kinko's books.
No, and now with so many tools, even AI, you can leverage a lot of that to create covers, to create interactions.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Yeah.
Share with me a little bit, Tanisha, and our audience of how then you came from the book business to now you have founded an incredibly amazing nonprofit that is having a lot of impact in the world. Tell us a little bit about the journey to the Monarch Circle, what you do there, and then how that plays into the book we have here on the table.
Absolutely. Well, actually, it was the opposite. The book is what catapulted me into the nonprofit.
Okay.
Because we've done Hush 1 and we now have Hush 2. I'm working on Hush 3, which will actually be a book just with 7 men sharing their story of overcoming sexual abuse.
Wow.
We have 3 African-American males, which is like unheard of, in Hush 2. And then Hush 1 is all women.
Okay.
So my goal for 3 is to just do men.
Yeah.
But it's almost like I tapped into a gold mine. I tapped into purpose. I tapped into passion. When we started having the book signings, the panel discussions that went along with it, I was like, whoa, this is bigger than a book. This is bigger than me. Let me just be honest.
Wow.
This is bigger than me. This is probably a movement.
Yes.
I see it on the scale of like the Me Too movement.
Yes.
And I feel like in America, we can only deal with one issue at a time. So it's like, it might be Me Too movement for a year, and then it might be Black Lives Matter. And then Black Lives Matter goes silent, and then something else will rise up.
And then it's Hush 3 or Hush 2. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And so we'll go in this cycle until another scandal or something comes up where a football coach has now been molesting, teenage boys on the team. And now it's a big deal again. So it comes in waves. But when those waves come, I'm riding those waves.
Sure.
Because I already have the books. I already have the nonprofit. And so the Monarch Circle, our goal is to help people heal, both men and women. So that's what sets us apart.
I like that.
Our goal is to help them heal through 10-week small groups. When I say small, Susie, very small, 5 to 7.
That is small. That's
5
good.
to 7.
That's a tight-knit group. Yeah.
Because I found my greatest level of healing in a year small group with 5 women. It was very small. It was very intimate. We built trust, but those people gave me the courage to now go to my family and say, this is what happened to me. I was 38 years old. I'll never forget. But they gave me the courage to actually go tell my family, this is what happened. This is why relationships are so strained. This is why I feel the way I do. And my mother had no clue until I was 38. I was molested at 7 and 8 and then 13.
Wow.
She found out at 38.
She found out at 30.
Yeah.
But I love how you just said that. You said, this is why my relationships are so strained. This is why these things I'm dealing with. And there's a level of beauty there in being able to share that vulnerably.
Yes.
But also I love your leadership in taking your accountability for saying, okay, I wasn't
broken.
Yeah, I wasn't responsible for what happened to me.
Yeah, but I'm 120% responsible for the healing.
Love that.
And that's what I want people to hear.
Thank you. That is powerful.
The healing is your responsibility.
Yes.
Yes, they could have been wrong. Yes, they hurt you, all of the things. Because here's what I want the entrepreneurs to hear. It will begin to show up in your business.
Yes.
It will show up in your marriage.
Yes.
It will show up in the way you raise your kids. It will show up everywhere, and you won't know what the it is until you can name it. Like, oh, this is rejection. This is abandonment. This is fear from molestation or rape or sexual abuse.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is so true. And that's so important. Is so many times we think we have to compartmentalize our lives. This is my work. This is my family. This is how I am in social settings. We don't do it well.
We're doing a horrible job.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's a kernel, a pattern that stays there. When you can open that up, you free yourself to go to the next level. And, I see it in business all the time, too. What it shows up usually is interpersonal conflicts among team members.
Yes.
I always say, your problems, your leadership will only be limited by your personal growth and development.
Yeah.
So as Jim Rohn says, work hard.
Yeah. So I like to tell people, I'm like, listen, you may have a woman who's very nasty in the office, and you may say, she doesn't like me. I'm here to tell you it's so much deeper than that. The question should be, who hurt you to the point that you are now nasty to everybody that you engage with?
Wow.
You are so guarded. You have 18 gates up before we can get to the real you.
Yes.
I mean, literally.
I know what you're saying.
People
I've
have
seen
the walls up. They're nasty. You say good morning. They're like, it's not a good morning. It's like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like, who spilled your coffee? Like, what is happening? So it's one of those things where I tell people, if you see someone who's constantly angry, constantly bitter, it's the root of bitterness. And now whatever has happened in childhood, somebody dropped you, somebody didn't see you, somebody didn't pay attention to you, somebody didn't give you what you needed. And because of that, you're bleeding on everything you're doing.
Yeah, and how to shift. So I love that because it is in the entrepreneur world, the leadership world, we call that from breakdown to breakthrough.
Yes.
The breakthrough is
knock down the walls, first of all.
Those 18 walls.
Yeah, the 18 walls.
We're not responsible for what happened to us, but we're responsible to clean it up and to move forward. And I really like that, that is your message. In fact, that very type of a message could resonate so well with high-performing leaders because they will hit a wall too if they don't do this work. And it may be abuse, it may be trauma, or it might be simply they never learned a better communication strategy and they need to give up belief systems they've had. And I see that all the time.
So you got to think about the owner of a store or a clerk that's working at a grocery store. A little kid walks by, he breaks a jar of jelly. Who's got to clean it up? The little kid doesn't clean it up.
Good analogy. Yeah.
The person who owns the store, clean up on aisle 7.
Yep.
We hear it all the time on a loudspeaker. Somebody wasted something. It was a mistake. Oops.
Yep.
But now we're responsible, the owner, and we're the owner of our bodies, our minds, our temples. It's like you're responsible for cleaning it up.
I think that's beautiful. Now let's talk about these small groups or pods as you have. So you have these small groups and they work together, and then the program you said
for 10
is
weeks.
10 weeks. Okay, great. And then they get to know each other and they're able to share experiences. And I think that is so powerful.
Yes. And then at the end of the 10 weeks, we give them the option to share their story in hush.
Sure.
So if they want to share their story of how they were sexually abused or sexually assaulted, and then they want to share what the overcoming process was like, and they want to empower other people to come out and share their story. That's what it's all about. It's like free people, free people.
And that's not very healing, too, because I've heard a lot of folks say, for me to be able to speak into it, that was their biggest fear. I can't talk about this. I'm so ashamed. Once they talked about it, if they were ready and they had a support system like your network, then they said, wow, this opened up for me and I want to share my story to help others. Not from a victim standpoint, but from a victor standpoint.
From a healed standpoint. So you're not going into it speaking to an audience saying, woe is me.
Right.
We know it happened. Okay, it happened, but how did you heal from it?
Yes.
And what triggers showed up and how do you deal with those triggers?
Yes.
So it's like some of the same things are happening to all victims of sexual abuse. So, I mean, it's amazing. I tell people that marriage even is a mirror because I feel like I wouldn't have done the level of work that I've done had I not been married, because I had a person telling me every day, like, you're angry all the time. Like, you are just nasty. Like, for 3 years, I swear I got up and he would be like, you woke up on the wrong side of the bed for like 3 years. And it was like, oh my God. But subliminally, I was like self-sabotaging my marriage.
Yeah.
Because of the trauma that happened long before he got there.
Yes.
So
Yeah, I think that, it's so powerful for people to hear this. Thank you so much. We're covering so much. So now what I love about this is your through line, the ability to go from your journalism to an author to helping people publish books to then saying, wait a minute, I can actually pull all this together. Take pain from my past that I'm still living a little bit in my own life. And I know that very well. When we don't resolve the things, what is repressed gets expressed. They fester, right?
Yes.
So we have to go in and do that deep work. That's why I always say leadership is a journey to the center of yourself and back again. And I always think about
redefining. Redefining.
I'm glad you
are.
said that because our identity is like, we're people of faith. So we believe it's that spark of God in us, but it's that spark of life. You can say everything else is a behavior. You can always change your behavior.
You can always change. I tell people, I am so creative. When I make up my mind to change my handwriting style, I can change it.
Wow.
I have done it over and over again.
I love that example. Yeah. And people would say, oh, that's just my handwriting. It's a behavior of your neurology. Yes. Okay. So now this is so cool. I love the vision behind Hush because in a similar way, I'm working on a book called Quantum Lead about quantum leaders. And you're part of the book, and that's so great. I love all the mirrors here that we have. But talk a little bit about, in quantum leadership, we're going to talk about how you see things aligning for you in the universe that you say, you know what? This couldn't have happened unless there was some sort of entanglement, some sort of force that's bigger than just coincidence. Tell me a little bit about in your life, what do you think that was? Where do you see that quantum lead moment?
Yeah. So for me, it actually came, 2009 was pivotal because that's when the business started. But 2017, when I got laid off for the last time at Raytheon, I was working at Raytheon in Troy, and I had worked for Raytheon like 3 times, and I've worked for DTE Energy 3 times. as a contractor. It's hilarious. My husband always says, you are unemployable. That is the problem with you. Just stop.
You're an entrepreneur.
Exactly.
That's how I say it.
He's like, you are
stop,
making these senior managers and managers go crazy. You're sending them through hoops and you know you're not staying.
Yeah.
So in 2017, I was literally going to work. I was making about $45 an hour. And to the average person, they would say, that is amazing. That's great. That's like $100K. Like you're living the dream. But I was miserable. I would literally sit and cry in the parking lot before I went in. And some days when I went in, there was 8 hours of no work. So eventually as a contractor, when you don't have work, they're like, yeah, well, we don't really need you. We'll put you on call. Can you kind of log on from home? So I did that for a season. And then eventually it was just, they ended the contract. And my husband had been telling me for years, but we're hard-headed. We don't really listen to them much. So he's like, just come off and just do the business. Yeah. And I'm like, no, why would I do that? I can run the business and I can work a job. Like, it's the whole idea of if you chase two rabbits, they're both going to get away. Because you're chasing two rabbits instead of just focusing on one. Yeah.
Wow.
So 2017 is when I stepped into it fully, and I have not been back.
Well, and that's so powerful too, because first of all, I commend your husband. He really took a stand for you. And I always say that is like, my husband's the same way. I want somebody to I don't want them to agree with me and buy into my breakdown. I want them to be like, no, I'm going to stand for your leadership. How could you have led that differently?
He does not have the tears. He is not bringing it. He's like, what are you going to do about it? I'm like, I just want to cry now. He's like, no, what are we doing about it?
I love it. Yeah, let's solve it. Well, solve and resolve because your purpose.
Fixer.
He's a fixer. Yeah. And I kind of am like that too. I know that most times they say, by and large, women are more inventors and men are fixers. I'm a fixer. I want it fixed. If somebody brings me a problem, I'm like, what are we doing? Yep. So I totally get that. And I appreciate that because I'm thinking, I want to make massive impact in the world. This problem, I know you'll have to solve it. And that's the other thing is with entrepreneurship, a lot of times we think we're going to be successful when I solve this problem. But really, you are always upgrading your problems. You're always upgrading. So you should think, wow, when I have a new problem, that means I'm moving ahead.
Absolutely.
If you're in the same problem over and over again, you're in a pattern. You're stuck.
You're in a cycle.
And
so I tell clients all the time, because you have people who come to me and say, can you get me on the Amazon bestsellers list? I can. Can you get me the New York Times bestseller? We can try. But then I ask them why. Yeah. And most people are like, well, that's like the pinnacle for authors. I'm like, okay, so you get the New York Times bestseller status, you put the sticker on your book and all the things, and then what? And most people are like, I didn't think that far because my goal was Amazon bestseller, which, by the way, we talked about can be manipulated.
Oh, yeah.
I won't give the code away, but there's a code to get. Yeah.
I didn't use it on mine.
But I mean, it's not a natural progression. Now, the New York Times and all the other ones, that's different. But even with that, what does it really mean? I mean, it's the idea of you can win a Grammy, you can win an Emmy, great. It's cute, the award ceremony, all the glam. We love it. We watch it on TV. And some of those people, when they go home at night, they put it on the shelf and they are still dealing with depression and suicidal thoughts.
That's so true.
So you can get another award, but what does it really mean?
Right. What is the vision beyond there?
Correct.
And you've said it so well, is I think as we grow in our leadership in life, we recognize we're not on this earth for ourselves. We're here to help and make a difference for someone else.
Absolutely.
So everything about what you're doing with the Monarch Circle, with Hush, with the whole project, and you're also a person of faith. I know you're very active in the church. Yeah. And you've been able to bring all of that. And I really feel,
together,
you're living your purpose.
Absolutely.
And you're doing something that not only the world will pay you for because there's a need, but you're also in that zone of excellence.
Yes.
But it did take your own overcoming of adversity to get there.
Absolutely. So what I found out recently is I thought the books, the publishing, the speaking, I thought that side of the journalism, I thought that side of things was like my pinnacle. Like, that's what I'm going to die doing. And God swoops in like, nope. Literally, like it is my plan. I'm going to complete the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program next week. So I graduate next week.
Congratulations. You are booking through these things.
Yeah.
Wow.
So 13-week program at Wayne State. It's phenomenal. I'm in cohort 29. They're already planning for like the next cohort. But we create a 5-year growth plan.
Good.
But a part of that growth plan is, how far do I need to grow my business to then sell it? Because at the end of the day, I can do it, but should I do it for another 30, 40 years? I'm probably a little bit more, just a little bit more passionate about helping people heal from sexual abuse. And that, for me, that's a fire that I don't think is ever going to go away.
Right. That's part of that.
Because there are a plethora of people who are still, when I do my small groups, I'm looking at women who are anywhere from 17 to the last lady was maybe 67. It happened when she was 7, so you've been holding a secret for 60 years. Can you imagine what's happening in the body? Trying to hold on to the trauma and the secret.
Yeah, we know the power of that. What is that book? The Body Keeps a Score.
The Body Keeps Score.
Yep.
So we wonder why all these cancers and all these things, and it's like the power of forgiveness works. Doing soul work works. Yes. Going to counseling works. The Bible work. You're going to need all the things. Like, get all the things.
It's going to take an army.
It's going to take all the things to get free and stay free. Because it's one thing to get free, but a lot of people don't stay free.
Exactly. Because what happens, the brain pulls you back to what's familiar because that's what's safe.
Yeah.
And then we
think
it's safe, but it's not.
Yeah. But it's the prison that we've created for our own selves. So it's like, while you're putting up walls, you can't get out and nobody else can get in. But you can't get out. So now you're stuck.
You're stuck in your own story. So if you think about your journey, were there 1 or 2 moments that you look back and say, wow, that was just too weird to be a coincidence. I can't believe that happened at the point it did. It almost felt like this was meant to be. Give me like an example or 2 of where you see that showing up for you.
So I'm going to say something unorthodox.
This is good. Our ratings will go up.
Yes. And I don't want people to take this the wrong way. And it took me a long time to get to this revelation. It was for the greater good that I was molested. Now, hear me. I'm not saying that the act itself was good. What I'm saying is, for the greater good of the people that I will impact, the greater good of the people who will come through our small groups or our live events, that's a much greater good. If I had to be the sacrificial lamb, if you will, I would have never been forming a nonprofit around sexual abuse if I didn't have the personal experience, because I feel like it's your heartbeat when you can totally relate to a woman or a man who's coming in the room saying, listen, I can't be intimate with my spouse because I was sexually abused. Like, that's a real thing.
Wow.
And most people who have not been sexually abused, they don't get that.
Right.
So there are a lot of people who advocate for sexual abuse survivors, but they don't have the personal experience. And so I won't say, oh, it was good that it happened, but because it happened, here's how I can turn it for good.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. In fact, I think that's great the way you positioned it, because you want to make sure that the folks are hearing you're not saying that was okay.
Correct.
At the same time, you are talking about what Napoleon Hill in his book, Think and Grow Rich, says. In every adversity, there is the seed of equivalent or greater advantage.
Absolutely.
And he studied millionaires, probably billionaires if they were around today. And he said people that took adversity in their life, whether they created it or it was put on them, because we know sometimes when we're young.
I didn't choose this.
You didn't choose this,
since we're here, let's roll with it.
Exactly. And then where is that seed of equivalent, or I like to say even greater advantage? And the Bible talks about that for our shame, he will give us double. Double. So we're not just trying to restore. We're trying to go even higher.
Yes.
I love that.
And so for me, I realized that not everybody is as bold as I am to talk about it. And it's because I've done 13 years of healing work in small groups and counseling sessions and retreats. And I've done all the things. I've thrown things in the fire. We've boiled water. We've ripped up paper. We've written forgiveness letters. I have done all the things. And guess what? I am yet peeling back layers.
Yes, exactly.
So I don't want people to think that this is a destination.
Right.
This is a journey.
It's a journey. Now, I think you can get over a huge hurdle of it.
Sure.
The self-awareness and the initial work probably gets at I think they've called it in trauma work, the initial sensitizing event.
Yes.
The ISE.
Yes.
What is it that the trauma stacks upon?
Correct.
Because people don't always understand that problems are stacked in layers.
Yes.
And you many times try to treat up here when the ISE is down here.
Yeah.
You spend years chiseling, then it gets worse. And people are like, why am I not seeing?
Years before you even get to the root.
You got to get to
you
the
think
root.
about a plant, it's deep down.
Right.
The root
so
is, you
deep.
see the rose, but where's the root to the rose?
Yeah. And it's deep in the subconscious for protection. So being able to work in those small groups allows you to work with folks and to get that deeper faster, just like with the book, 60 Days. To say, look, I know it's going to take work, but I don't think it should take the second half of our lives to get over the first. We should be able to get in.
The other component is, what I want to put in place is once they go through the small group, that they come back and they are now accountability partners for the other people going through, because you're constantly healing. But as you heal, you're able to help others heal. And because you're helping others heal, you start seeing things that you've never seen before.
You go to another level of healing. And Tanisha, I think it's so important that you're not just helping people heal. You're actually helping them find their purpose through healing to say, just like you said, well, it's not just about the bestseller. It's not just about getting on Amazon. What do you want to do beyond that? And you're helping unlock potential. And so I see why you love that. And the sad part is, Susie, most people don't know.
I can go get another job. I have 2 degrees. I can work at Mercedes-Benz.
You've had some impressive companies. I know.
But even still, I was working at Mercedes and I would get a car every weekend because they call it a dash, drive a star home for the weekend. I would leave my car there and I would drive home a Mercedes-Benz.
Wow.
When I tell you it wasn't enough, Susie, it wasn't enough because I knew I wasn't in my purpose. And I wasn't in my passion.
I get that.
And 100%. They loved me. They had me there, not just for communications, but change management. They're like, it's 400 people. We need to change the culture. Let's do it. So I had the senior managers passing out Easter candy and baskets and walking around for Christmas and giving out gifts. And But it wasn't serving me.
No, it was we always talk about when Steve Jobs recruited the Pepsi president, and he said, you can make sugar water for the rest of your life, or you can come with me and change the world. And up until that time, he didn't want to leave Pepsi. Scully didn't want to leave. But he realized, you know what? Or McNally, I think it was McNally. He said, I realized I can't continue to do this. This is not fulfilling me. He had a great position, a great salary, great stock options. And I think money, we talk about this a lot. I mean, money's in the Bible 2,500 times.
Absolutely.
It's there more than faith.
It's important.
It's
money
important.
Money answers all things.
And people that say like, I don't want to make more money. I'm thinking, don't you want to give more away? Think about what you could do with the money. Like, it isn't the money itself. Because if I gave you $12 million in a suitcase and said you can never touch it, you'd say, well, what good is this? Just take the suitcase away. So it's what we use our talents for, our money for. And I think when you're building a mission like this, it's going to explode, and it's already exploding because you're seeing people going, I wish this was here earlier. And you're probably thinking, I wish this was here for me.
Absolutely. And so the other thing is, as it relates to money, even as business owners, yes, we solve a solution. Yes, we get a check or we send an invoice, all the things people are paying for our services, our products. But how do we then give back? Because now me and my husband are like, how can we build this church in Peru? It's $12,000. How can we send a kid to college for journalism? Because that's what I'm passionate about. And I had to take student loans. I would love to pay for a journalism student to go to the J school for free. That's transformational for me. Because I didn't have it. But now our mindsets are just really shifting of not how we can get a bigger house. We're actually looking at downsizing because our house is like 3,200 square feet and kids keep leaving. So now it's like,
it's a lot to clean.
It's like, who's cleaning this? This is just not right on so many levels. And so we're looking to downsize because we want to be able to give more. Not to just downsize to downsize, but if we downsize, how much more are we going to have in the bank? To be a blessing to the people who really don't have.
Tanisha, I love that. So let's talk a little bit about how folks can get your book and how can they connect with you, and also how can they support the Monarch Circle and the work you're doing?
Absolutely. So 2 different websites. So the business, So It Is Written, it's soitiswritten.net. It's not .com. Soitiswritten.net. If you go in the online store, all of my books are there, all 24. Some of my daughters, too. She's 11 and she has 5 books. Those. Yes, Nyla is like a mogul in herself. And then if they want to partner with the Monarch Circle, they can donate. They can find out about classes at themonarchcircle.org.
And that's really important, especially if people know folks that maybe could benefit from these groups, or to say, wow, there really is someone here that can empathize, that can help, that has been there. So
yes, and the other thing I want to say, people always ask, is it virtual? It is not. not. It's in person.
Okay.
You have to show up because there's been some concern about recording and Zoom and privacy and all the things. We want to take all those barriers away, 5 to 7 people in a room.
Yeah, and that makes sense. You know, you can begin this here, and who knows, you might even franchise it throughout the country too. So that's the plan.
A Monarch Circle in every major city.
I love that vision. That's so great. Well, Tanisha, thank you so much for joining us.
Susie,
you definitely are a leading lady.
Thank you. I need a part 2, a part 3.
We will. Yeah, well, I'd love to come back and talk with you too. Once you have Monarch Circle and you have done some things where you say, okay, wow, we had our event. I saw you had
the ribbon cutting. Yes.
But also as you're building out Hush 3 and the other stories, we'd be very happy too if anybody wants to join us and talk about it if they're ready.
Oh yeah.
Because I love being able to help folks feel like, wow, I'm really living my purpose and I'm doing it in such a way that can help others and relate to others.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You're going to be great at that. I love this whole vision and everything.
Thank you.
So, well, thank you so much for joining another amazing edition of Leading Ladies at Walsh College.